The alien warship was unstoppable. None had survived. The Galactic Federation sent a desperate plea across the stars for help, but no one saw any way out, except for the humans. Captain Zach Hawkins of the United Earth Space Fleet received the emergency distress signal. A mysterious warship of unknown origin had been decimating peaceful Federation colonies, killing every living thing it encountered. No survivors, no warnings, just utter annihilation. The Federation was about to fall. Billions more would die, unless Zach and his crew could do the impossible. Stop the alien menace, find its weakness, destroy it against all odds. Zach assembled a crew of humanity's best on the UESF Titan, his second-in-command Lieutenant Alex Reed. Top pilots, engineers, and space marines. They set off into the uncharted void, following a trail of destruction, not knowing if even they could prevail. Time was running out. The survival of the Galactic Federation and potentially humanity itself was in their hands. Find a way out, or die trying. This was their mission now. This was their fight. The UESF Titan dropped out of FTL, and the first thing that hit me was the smell. Even with the life support scrubbers working overtime, the acrid scent of smoke and death filled the ship's corridors. On the view screen was a planet that had once been a thriving world, now reduced to a charred husk. "Scan for life signs," I ordered, hoping against hope that someone had survived the attack. Lieutenant Reed shook her head. "Nothing, Captain. No signs of life anywhere on the planet." I clenched my fists, anger and despair warring within me. We were too late, again. "Assemble an away team," I said. "We're going down there. We need to find out what we're up against." Reed nodded, her face grim. She knew as well as I did that this was a long shot, but we had to try. The surface of the planet was even worse than it had looked from orbit. The once great cities were now nothing more than piles of rubble, the streets littered with the charred remains of the dead. The air was thick with the stench of burnt flesh and ozone. We picked our way through the ruins, scanning for any signs of the enemy or clues to their identity. But there was nothing, just death and destruction as far as the eye could see. And then we heard it, a faint cry barely audible over the crackle of still-burning fires. Reed and I exchanged a glance, hardly daring to hope. We followed the sound, picking our way through the rubble until we found the source. It was an alien, a member of a species I had never seen before. It was badly injured, its blue skin covered in burns and cuts, but it was alive. "Please," it rasped in heavily accented galactic standard. "Help me." I knelt beside the alien, scanning it with my tricorder. "My name is Captain Zach Hawkins of the United Earth Space Fleet," I said. "We're here to help. Can you tell us what happened?" The alien coughed, a trickle of blue blood running from the corner of its mouth. "I am Kral of the Zorgon," it said. "Our world was attacked by a devourer." I frowned. "A devourer? What is that?" Kral shuddered. "An ancient enemy," it said. "A species that consumes entire worlds. They have been dormant for millennia, but now they have returned." I felt a chill run down my spine. "How do we stop them?" Kral shook its head. "You cannot," it said. "Their technology is far beyond anything the Federation possesses. Your weapons will be useless against them." I exchanged a glance with Reed, seeing the same fear and determination in her eyes that I felt in my own heart. If the Devourers were as powerful as Kral claimed, then the Federation was doomed. And if the Federation fell, then humanity would be next. "We have to try," I said. "We can't just let them destroy everything." Kral looked at me with something like pity in its eyes. "You do not understand," it said. "The Devourers cannot be stopped. They will consume every world in the galaxy, and there is nothing you can do to prevent it." I stood up, my jaw clenched with determination. "We'll see about that," I said. As we made our way back to the Titan, I couldn't shake the feeling that Kral was right. The Devourers were unlike anything we had ever faced before, and if the Federation couldn't stop them, what chance did we have? But I also knew that we couldn't just give up. Humanity had faced impossible odds before, and we had always found a way to prevail. If there was even the slightest chance that we could stop the Devourers, then we had to take it. Because if we didn't, then the galaxy was doomed, and I refused to let that happen. Back on the Titan, I paced the bridge, my mind racing. Kral's words echoed in my head. The Devourers cannot be stopped, but I refused to accept that. There had to be a way. I turned to Reed. Lieutenant, set a course for the nearest Federation outpost. We need to gather more intel on these Devourers. She nodded, her fingers flying over the console. Course laid in, Captain. The Titan surged forward, the stars blurring into streaks of light as we jumped to FTLE. I settled into my chair, trying to quell the unease in my gut. We were flying blind, chasing an enemy we knew almost nothing about. But what choice did we have? Hours later, we dropped out of FTL on the edge of a star system. The moment we did, the comms panel lit up like a Christmas tree. Captain, we're picking up a distress call from the outpost, Ensign Kim reported, his face pale. They're under attack. On screen, I ordered, leaning forward in my seat. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a scene of utter chaos. The outpost hung in space, its hull breached in a dozen places, venting atmosphere and debris. A massive ship, easily 10 times the size of the Titan, loomed over it, its surface a twisted mass of spikes and ridges. As we watched, a beam of sickly green energy lanced out from the Devourer ship, slicing through the outpost like a hot knife through butter. Secondary explosions rippled across its surface, and then, with a final, silent scream, the outpost shattered into a million pieces. "My God," Reed whispered, her face ashen. I felt a cold knot of fear in my stomach, but I pushed it aside. "Scan for survivors," I ordered, "and open a channel to that ship." Kim shook his head. "No response, Captain. They're ignoring us." "Life signs detected," Lieutenant Patel reported from the ops station. 20, no, 15, fading fast. "Transport them directly to sickbay," I said, "and get us out of here, maximum warp." The Titan leaped forward, the Devourer ship receding behind us. I sagged back in my chair, my heart racing. We'd just witnessed the destruction of an entire outpost, and we'd barely escaped with our lives. How the hell were we supposed to fight an enemy like that? In sickbay, I stood over the bed of one of the survivors, a thin, balding man with haunted eyes. He'd introduced himself as Dr. Ilan Satori, a Federation scientist who'd been studying the Devourers. "They came out of nowhere," he said, his voice shaking. "One moment everything was normal. The next, that ship was just there, looming over us. We didn't stand a chance." I laid a hand on his shoulder, trying to offer some comfort. "I'm sorry, Doctor, but we need your help. What can you tell us about the Devourers?" Satori took a deep, shuddering breath. "I've been studying them for years, ever since the first rumors of their existence began to circulate, and I've discovered a weakness in their technology." I leaned forward, hardly daring to hope. "What kind of weakness?" "Their shields," Satori said. "They're incredibly advanced, far beyond anything the Federation has, but they have a flaw, a vulnerability that could be exploited with the right weapon." "What kind of weapon?" I asked. Satori shook his head. "I don't know exactly, but I do know that it would require an incredibly advanced AI system to crack their shielding algorithms. And as far as I know, only one species has developed that kind of technology." I felt a chill run down my spine. Humans. Satori nodded. "Exactly. Your people are the key, Captain. If anyone can find a way to stop the Devourers, it's you." I stepped back, my mind racing. If Satori was right, then the fate of the entire galaxy rested on our shoulders, on human ingenuity and technology. It was a terrifying thought, but also an exhilarating one. I tapped my comm badge. "Reed, contact Starfleet Command. Tell them we need the best damn AI expert they've got. We're going to need all the help we can get." A few hours later, I stood in the transporter room, watching as a slender figure materialized on the pad. Dr. Lena Novak, the most brilliant AI researcher humanity had ever produced. If anyone could help us crack the Devourer's shields, it was her. Dr. Novak, I said, stepping forward to shake her hand. Thank you for coming. She smiled, her eyes sharp and intelligent behind her glasses. Captain Hawkins, I hear you have a problem that needs solving. I nodded, feeling a flicker of hope for the first time in days. We do, and I think you might be just the person to solve it. Dr. Novak stepped onto the bridge, a sleek black case in hand. Her face was set with determination as she approached me. Captain Hawkins, she said, her voice crisp and businesslike, I have the prototype AI system. We're ready to proceed. I nodded, feeling a flicker of hope. Excellent, let's get to work. As Dr. Novak and her team set up the AI interface, I gathered my crew for a final briefing. The survivors from the destroyed outpost, including Dr. Satori, stood off to the side, their faces tight with tension. I know you're all scared, I said, looking around the room, and I don't blame you. The Devourers are unlike anything we've ever faced before, but we have a plan, and we have the best damn crew in the galaxy. If anyone can stop these bastards, it's us. I saw some of the tension ease from my crew's faces, replaced by determination, but the survivors looked unconvinced. With all due respect, Captain, Dr. Satori said, his voice trembling slightly. We've seen what the Devourers can do. What makes you think you can succeed where the rest of the galaxy has failed? I met his gaze, my jaw tight. Because we're human. We don't give up and we don't back down from a fight, and right now we're the only hope the galaxy has. Satori looked away, his face troubled. I could sense the doubts and fears swirling in the room, the weight of the impossible task ahead of us. But I couldn't let that stop me. I had a duty to protect Earth, to prove that humanity was more than just a backwater species on the fringes of the galaxy. Dr. Novak, is the AI ready? I asked, turning to face her. She nodded, her fingers flying over the console. Yes, Captain, we're ready to begin the upload. Good. Helm, set a course for the last known location of the Devourer ship. It's time to end this. The UESF Titan surged forward, the stars blurring into streaks of light as we jumped to FTL. I settled into my chair, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Captain, we're approaching the coordinates, Lieutenant Reed reported, her voice tight. Drop us out of warp, I ordered. Shields up, weapons at the ready. The Titan shuddered as it dropped back into normal space, and the view screen filled with the twisted, nightmarish shape of the Devourer ship. It loomed over us, its surface pulsing with sickly green light. They're charging weapons, Ensign Kim reported, his face pale. Evasive maneuvers, I barked. Keep us out of their line of fire. The Titan twisted and spun, narrowly avoiding the Devourer's blasts. I gripped the armrests of my chair, my knuckles white. Dr. Novak, status on the AI upload? We're encountering resistance, she replied, her brow furrowed in concentration. Their firewalls are adapting faster than we anticipated. Keep trying, I said. We need to give the AI time to infiltrate their systems. The bridge shook as another blast grazed our shields, sparks flying from overloaded consoles. I saw fear in the eyes of my crew, but also determination. They trusted me to get them through this. Captain, I'm detecting a fluctuation in their shield harmonics, Lieutenant Patel reported, her voice tight with excitement. I think the AI is starting to have an effect. Good, I said, a grim smile touching my lips. Let's keep the pressure on. Fire at will, all weapons. The Titan's phasers and torpedoes lanced out, slamming into the Devourer's shields. The enemy ship shuddered, its hull plating cracking and splintering under the onslaught. Their shields are failing, Patel reported, her eyes wide. The AI is taking over their systems. Captain, look, Reed cried, pointing at the view screen. The Devourer ship was starting to come apart, explosions rippling across its surface. Its weapons systems flickered and died, leaving it helpless before us. We did it, Dr. Novak breathed, a smile spreading across her face. The AI worked. But even as the words left her mouth, the Devourer ship fired one last desperate salvo. The Titan shook violently, sparks and debris flying across the bridge. I felt a searing pain in my side, and looked down to see blood seeping through my uniform. "Captain," Reed cried, rushing to my side. I waved her away, gritting my teeth against the pain. "I'm fine," I said, though my vision was starting to blur. "Finish the job." Reed hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, sir." She turned back to her console, her fingers flying over the controls. "Firing torpedoes!" The Titan's weapons lanced out one final time, slamming into the crippled Devourer ship. It exploded in a blinding flash of light, the shockwave slamming into the Titan and sending us tumbling end over end. I clung to my chair, my head spinning. I could hear shouts and alarms, the acrid smell of smoke filling my nostrils. But through the chaos, I felt a sense of triumph. We had done it. We had stopped the Devourers. As the Titan slowly righted itself, I looked around at my crew. They were battered and bruised, but alive. And in their eyes, I saw something I had never seen before. Respect, admiration, even awe. We had proven ourselves to the galaxy, proven that humanity was more than just a backwater species. We were warriors, defenders, and we would never back down from a fight. I smiled, even as the pain in my side threatened to overwhelm me. We had won the day, and whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew that we would face them together, as a crew, as a family. The bridge was filled with smoke and sparks. Consoles were dark, others flickered on and off. I could hear coughing, moaning. Someone was calling for a medic. I looked over to the captain's chair and saw Zack slumped over, a pool of blood growing on the floor beneath him. "Captain!" I rushed over, feeling for a pulse. It was there, but weak. His eyes fluttered open for a moment, unfocused. "Alex," he mumbled. "The ship, the crew, it's up to you now." His eyes closed again and he went limp. I swallowed hard, gently lowering him to the floor. "Get a medical team up here now," I shouted to no one in particular. 2 ensigns hurried off the bridge. I straightened up, looking around at the damage, at the frightened faces of the crew. They were looking to me now. I was in command. I had to be strong for them, for all of us. "Listen up," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. "The captain is down, but we're not out of this fight yet. That Devourer ship is still out there, and it's up to us to stop it. For the captain, for the Federation, for every living being in the galaxy. We're the only ones who can do this. We're the only hope left, so let's get this ship operational and finish this." There were nods, a few scattered cheers. I could see determination replacing fear in their eyes. They had a purpose now, a reason to keep going. I turned to Lieutenant Patel at Ops. "Damage report." "Shields are down to 20%, weapons are offline. We've got hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Emergency force fields are holding for now. Warp drive is out, but impulse engines are still functioning." I nodded. "Divert all available power to shields and engines. Get repair crews working on the weapons. We need to be battle-ready as soon as possible." "Aye, sir," Patel replied, already tapping commands into her console. I turned to Dr. Novak next, who was studying her AI readouts intently. "Doctor, please tell me you have some good news." She looked up, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Actually, I think I might. The AI has been analyzing the Devourer's technology, and it's found a weakness, a vulnerability in their power core. If we can get someone inside to plant an explosive, we could take out the whole ship," I finished, my mind racing. It was a desperate plan, but it was the only one we had. "All right, here's what we're going to do. I'll lead an infiltration team over to the Devourer ship. We'll fight our way to the power core and detonate the explosive. With any luck, that'll be enough to destroy it." "But Alex," Dr. Satori interjected, his face pale, "that's a suicide mission, even if you make it to the core." "I know the risks," I said, cutting him off, "but it's the only way. The captain would do the same if he were in my place." I looked around at the crew, at the determination in their eyes. They were ready to do whatever it took. "Ensign Kim, assemble a strike team. Volunteers only. Meet me in the armory in 5 minutes." "Yes, sir," Kim replied, already heading off the bridge. I turned back to Patel. "Lieutenant, as soon as we're aboard the Devourer ship, I want you to open fire with everything we've got left. Keep them distracted. Buy us as much time as you can." "Understood," Patel said, her jaw tight. I nodded, taking one last look around the bridge. This was it, the moment of truth. "You have the Khan, Lieutenant," I said to Patel. Then I turned and headed for the armory, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The strike team assembled in the armory was a motley crew, engineers, security officers, even a few scientists. They all had one thing in common, though, a determination to see this through to the end, no matter the cost. I grabbed a phaser rifle and a bandolier of power cells, slinging them over my shoulder. Around me, the others were doing the same, checking their weapons and steeling themselves for the fight ahead. "All right, listen up," I said, my voice cutting through the nervous chatter. "We all know what's at stake here. The Devourers have already destroyed countless worlds, and they won't stop until the entire galaxy is consumed. We're the only ones who can stop them. It won't be easy, and some of us may not make it back, but we have to try. For the Federation, for the Captain, for every living being out there depending on us, are you with me?" A roar of affirmation filled the room, and I felt a surge of pride. These were the bravest men and women I had ever known, and I was honored to lead them into battle. "Then let's go kick some Devourer ass," I shouted, leading the way to the transporter room. Moments later, we materialized on the Devourer ship, phaser rifles at the ready. The air was thick with an acrid stench, and strange, pulsing lights cast eerie shadows on the organic-looking walls. "Stay close and stay sharp," I whispered, taking point. "We don't know what kind of defenses they have in here." We moved forward cautiously, scanning for any sign of the enemy. But the corridors were strangely deserted, with only the distant throb of machinery to break the silence. And then, without warning, all hell broke loose. A swarm of Devourer drones came scuttling out of the shadows, their metallic bodies glinting in the pulsing light. They were on us in an instant, slashing with razor-sharp claws and firing pulses of searing energy. I dove for cover, taking out 2 drones with a quick burst from my rifle. Around me, the strike team was doing the same, laying down a withering hail of phaser fire. But the drones kept coming, wave after wave of them pouring out of every nook and cranny. We were being pushed back, forced to give ground inch by hard-fought inch. "Fall back to the next junction," I yelled over the din of battle. "We'll make our stand there." We fought our way through the press of drones, leaving a trail of smoking wreckage in our wake. But they were relentless, and I could see the toll it was taking on my team. We were running low on power cells, and several of us were nursing injuries. At the junction, we hastily set up a defensive perimeter, using the twisted remnants of Devourer technology as makeshift barricades. The drones came at us again, a seething tide of metal and hate. I lost track of time, lost in the adrenaline rush of battle. We fought with everything we had, but it wasn't enough. One by one, my team fell, until only a handful of us were left. "Go!" I shouted to the survivors, gesturing towards the corridor leading to the power core. "I'll hold them off." They hesitated, torn between duty and loyalty. But I knew what had to be done. "That's an order," I barked, my voice cracking with emotion. "Get to the core and finish this." With a final anguished look, they turned and ran, leaving me alone with the advancing horde. I took a deep breath, centering myself. This was it, my final stand. I thought of Zach, of the crew, of all the lives depending on our success, and I knew that my sacrifice would not be in vain. With a roar of defiance, I charged into the fray, phaser rifle blazing. I fought like a woman possessed, taking out drone after drone with ruthless efficiency. But there were too many, and I was only one. I felt the searing heat of an energy blast, smelled the acrid stench of my own burning flesh. But still I fought on, driven by a grim determination. And then, just as I was about to be overwhelmed, I heard it. A deep rumbling explosion that shook the very fabric of the ship. The power core. They had done it. I smiled through the pain, knowing that my death would have meaning, that the galaxy would be safe, that Zack and the others would live on. As the Devourer ship tore itself apart around me, I closed my eyes at peace. My last thought was of Earth, of the green hills and blue skies of home. And then oblivion. In the aftermath of the battle, the UESF Titan limped back to Earth, battered but victorious. They had saved the galaxy, but at a terrible cost. Zack, still recovering from his injuries, watched numbly as Alex's empty casket was loaded into the launch tube, to be consigned to the stars she had loved so much. He felt a hollow ache in his chest, a void that could never be filled. But as he looked out at the assembled crew, at the Federation survivors who stood with them, he knew that Alex's sacrifice had not been in vain. She had given them a future, a chance to rebuild and forge a new path. And as the casket slipped away into the void, Zack made a silent vow. He would honor Alex's memory and the memory of all those who had fallen. He would lead the UESF Titan and the Federation into a new era of unity and purpose. For he knew, as Alex had known, that the future of the galaxy depended on it. Dr. Satori approached Zack after the funeral, his face lined with sorrow and regret. "Captain Hawkins," he said formally, extending a hand, "on behalf of the Federation, I want to express our deepest condolences for your loss. Lieutenant Reed was a true hero, and her sacrifice will never be forgotten." Zack took the proffered hand, shaking it firmly. "Thank you, Dr. Alex. She was the best of us. She deserved so much more." Satori nodded, his eyes distant. "I think we all did. The Federation, I mean. We thought we were so advanced, so enlightened, but when the Devourers came, we were powerless. It took the courage and ingenuity of your people to save us all." Zack felt a swell of pride, tempered by the weight of responsibility. "We did what we had to do," he said simply, "what anyone would have done in our place." "Perhaps," Satori allowed, "but the fact remains that it was humanity that stood against the darkness when all others faltered, and for that, we owe you a debt that can never be repaid." He straightened, his voice taking on a formal cadence. "To that end, I have been authorized by the Federation Council to extend an offer of alliance to the people of Earth. Together, we can rebuild what was lost and face whatever challenges the future may hold, as equals and as friends." Zack felt a lump in his throat, remembering Alex's dying words. This was what she had fought for, what she had believed in. "On behalf of the United Earth Space Fleet and all the people of Earth, I accept your offer," he said solemnly. "Let us forge a new future together, one where the sacrifices of the fallen are never forgotten." As he shook Satori's hand once more, sealing the agreement, Zack felt a sense of hope amidst the grief. The road ahead would be long and hard, with no shortage of dangers lurking in the vastness of space. But he knew that as long as the spirit of unity and sacrifice embodied by Alex and so many others endured, they would never face those dangers alone. The galaxy had been forever changed by the Devourer War, but perhaps, in the end, that change would be for the better. Earth and the Federation, human and alien, united as never before. It was a new beginning born of blood and fire, and though the scars would never fade, Zack knew that the future was theirs to shape. Together. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support me, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And for every comment that says, "I liked the story," I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.